Hi there, welcome to an all-new episode of the KMS Quick Shots. My name is Flo, and today I'm joined by Paul O'Brien, who's creating songs under the moniker Man with His Guitar. Paul, hi there, nice to meet you.
Hi there, nice to meet you as well. Thanks for
So,
inviting me on.
pleasure to have you here. So I read that as a singer-songwriter, you have a stunning amount of over 300 songs so far. How is that amount of creativity even possible?
I'll need to correct that because I've actually was checking that today, and it's around 530 songs now. Which to be honest, I hadn't realized that myself. Um, but I don't know, it's strange. I mean, the background for me is I played guitar when I was young. I was so lazy, I taught myself right-handed, even though I'm left-handed, because I was too lazy to change the strings around. Um, but there was a big gap with family, with career, and if I'm being honest, I only really picked up the guitar again on the first COVID lockdown. So
Okay.
these songs have all come since March 2020, where it's almost like I'm making up for about 37 years worth of creativity that I've not had a chance to do. So yeah, I write very, very fast, Paul. It's just something that happens.
So how does it
So
work? Do you just wake up in the morning with two or three ideas in your head and you start writing, or how does the
how
output
it
come?
generally works for me, how it generally works for me is I use my phone at my bedside as my alarm. So I can wake up through the night and have one or two lyric ideas, which I'll put on the notes on my iPhone. The next day, that can then be used to generate the full lyrics for a song. Um, Lyrics can come at any time. What I normally like to do is early morning before I get into my office, a place of business. I like to spend that time sitting, thinking of ideas. It may be ideas I've already taken note of. It may be fresh ideas, but it's sitting with my cup of tea and breakfast in the quiet period before I open up the office generally is the most productive for me.
So what comes first, the melodies or the lyrics?
Almost always the lyrics. Almost always the lyrics.
Do they just
Um,
create, do they just come from several situations, or do you have a muse or something like this, or where do they come
yeah,
from?
they come from. I mean, my musical influences are Bruce Springsteen, John Mellencamp, Johnny Cash, Jackson Brown. Those are probably the four main ones for me. So I do listen to a lot of music, and you kind of ingest that. But I'm not saying I copy their ideas because I don't. But from what you listen to and their experiences and what they write about, it helps to influence what I write about. But probably with any singer-songwriter, and I'm clearly not a professional, but I would imagine it's the same with the professional singer-songwriters, is they tend to write about what they know. And they say that even as an author, that's the best thing to do. So there's always some germ of me in the songs, but generally I'm a character within the song, and it's from the perspective of a character. It's not me, but there's always some germ of me in there. So it comes from life experience. It could be triggered by something that I see when I'm out and about. For example, a month ago, sitting in a coffee shop, I was worrying my wife coming back from an appointment. I sat down and wrote a whole song about sitting in a coffee shop and watching the world go by. So that there can be all sorts of influences. Um, I have written a few songs lately that have been based around the war in Ukraine. So external influences like that can lead you to want to write about something like that. But if I'm being honest, there's no specific process. I just float into the old head.
So what happens with the ideas you don't really publish or make a full song with it? So aren't there a huge amount of songs you have just the idea, write some lines, and then decide, ah, nah, let's not do this, let's do another one.
Yes, yes. I do keep a notebook that's for unfinished songs as well as the finished works.
Have you
Again, if I'm
ever
being honest, Sorry?
Have you ever pulled that notebook out and reworked on some of the ideas, or
Yes.
is it just a notebook in some drawer?
No, it's not. The notebook is actually again on the iPhone, if I'm being honest. So there's a separate section I have on there just for unfinished lyrics, and they're not discarded. It is a case that I'll revisit them, and I do tend to revisit them regularly. And I'll take a germ of an idea or 4 or 5 lines, whatever it is, and I'll look at those, and from that I can then get a complete song. Nothing I've found, nothing much gets lost, to be honest, Flo. I do revisit and end up being able to make songs from them, but it might just not have been the right moment when I wrote that verse or two, to put it into a full song.
From what point is it that you decide, oh, okay, that's a song I'm going to publish, or I'm going to release?
That's when I would suggest I probably get a little bit manic about the whole process, because once the lyrics are written, I do need to come into the office, and that can be at different times, obviously not during working hours. But I'll come into my office to explain is attached to the back of my house. So I work from the back of my house, so I can easily, when I've got the idea and I've got the full lyrics, I'll pop out here and I'll play around with chords to compose a tune. And if I have it ready, I'd rather get it done and recorded. There are a lot. I've suggested to you around 530 songs. Those are mostly recorded, but not released. There's not that much that's left unrecorded. So they're sitting there waiting to be released at some point. But I do prefer to act on it and get it done. It's more satisfying for me to do that.
Is the whole process from start to finish a one-man gig, or do you have help with the production, the mixing part, or even the releasing part and the advertising?
Right, advertising I don't really do, but going back to the recording and producing, I did have a colleague whom I went to high school with, who worked on some songs in the early part of my journey, through 2020 through to 2021. And he did a lot of technical stuff for me in terms of adding instrumentation to my acoustic guitar. We had a good journey with that, but I think we reached the point where we felt we couldn't take it any further. And at that point, I then went on to starting producing them myself. What I've evolved to is sometimes producing them through the computer, because I use the software I use is Ableton, and I also use Audacity. So those are my tools of trade to get the sound that I want for a particular song. Since going alone with it, I find I enjoy it more because I'm doing the whole thing. It's a little bit like in my business, I'm a one-man band. I don't work with anyone else. And I think I like the control of being able to get things out the other end the way I would like them to sound.
I think it gives you more freedom to choose whether to do things or not, or whether to focus on several things. Because if you have a mixer, he will always tell you otherwise, and then it's playing in your head. So
that's right.
Did you ever play in bands over all those years?
No, I did not. I only ever had one opportunity to do that at high school with a friend of mine. We both played guitar, we were a duo, but we didn't have the courage to go on stage. So I've never actually performed live. I've sung live, and I've sung a cappella at weddings and things like that. But in terms of who I am now with Man with his guitar and the songwriting, I've never performed. My concern, Flo, to be honest with you, is I don't think my music would suit going into a pub situation, because I'm sometimes told my songs are a little bit deep, can be a little bit melancholic, but not all like that. But clearly there is a market for that, because if that wasn't the case, then John Mellencamp wouldn't have sold an album for the last 20 years. So people do like it. And sometimes people will say, well, post-pandemic, people are looking for cheery songs, and they want to they want something uplifting, and we do, but not everyone wants that. But I don't think my music would suit sitting in a pub on a Sunday afternoon with people listening to it. That's the issue I would have with it.
There sure would
my
be
little
outlets
here,
to. There sure would be outlets to play live there, but not necessarily a pub or live on stage on a big arena or something like this.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So is this a thing on your bucket list? Do you want to play live, or do you actually prefer doing what you do now?
My comfort zone is performing from here and enjoying that. But I think I would like to make that jump at some point. And something that's probably important with that is that I wouldn't want the impression that is I can sit here and I can engineer everything and I can cover up mistakes and so on. Because one of the things that I always do, Flo, is that if I do it, and that's why I can work very fast from words to melody to record. I tend to always only ever do one take. And the reason for that is because I want to kind of have that live feel to the recording. I don't want to go back and revisit it. And if that means, even if you've seen me on YouTube or in some of the music groups, there might be a bum note in there, whether it's a voice or it's a guitar. I prefer that to be the case rather than trying to make it a perfect thing, because I think you can lose some of the impetus of the song or the story. It's just how I prefer to work.
The thing with reworking and doing takes and stuff is that you tend to be really perfectionistic about it. So you do it over and over again, and unless the soul is squeezed out of the whole thing. So the other day when I watched the video from you, I noticed that there was a slight tempo change at the end of the song, and all of a sudden there was a note missing, and I was thinking like, this is the real deal. So that's where I started. These one takes are the most intense one regarding emotional output in comparison to those well polished studio recordings. So at what point did you decide, hey, I'm doing a video and posting that on YouTube? Because it took me years to even post interviews on YouTube.
Yeah, that idea came from a friend who produced my stuff early on and suggested I should start posting on YouTube, which is where I initially, put the songs before putting them on my Facebook page. How it works now is that mostly the songs first go on Facebook, and then I'll share them in the music groups, and then I'll feed them through to YouTube. I found I did try Spotify, Flo, and that gave me a little bit of a reality check, because I got nowhere with that. And that, I guess, comes back to the advertising side of things, because I've not done any advertising. And I guess if you don't do any advertising, you're going to struggle for followers. So that hurt the ego a little bit. And I'm still there as a presence on Spotify, but I've kind of decided that's not going to work for me. And I'm focusing on YouTube and Facebook, and just trying to get the music out in these great groups out there.
So you're right about the advertising part, because if you start throwing in time and money into advertising, and you don't have a company doing it for you, you lose half of your time as a creative musician, spending night after night doing advertising without the guarantee that it'll get you somewhere. So I can.
Well, that's true. I think the other thing for me is that I'm still working. I'm self-employed. This is my one-man business, so I can't ever take my eye off the main goal, which is paying the bills and putting bread on the table. So I don't really have the time or the free capital to do that at this point. As and when I retire, then I can move towards that.
So there's again this honesty in what you do, because I stumbled over your work on a Facebook group instead of mainstream Spotify playlists or something like this. And I was doing my little Sherlock Holmes thing on the internet to find out more about you. And I thought, Spotify in comparison to YouTube or the Facebook page, that's worlds to compare. And I was thinking like, okay, that's unique, because you're not there for the fame or the money, but you're there for the heart and soul of music. So that's one of the main reasons we're talking.
That is true. That is, thanks for that, because it is, I just really enjoy what I do. I'm clearly not out to make a living. Don't get me wrong, if I end up earning some pennies from it, well, then that would be a nice addition. But it's just the fact that I really enjoy what I do. And there is a compulsion to keep writing songs. I mean, my kids have said it at times, why is it you can write songs so fast? And obviously with the number of songs I've told you I've written, I clearly do write them fast, because I'm still working in the business. It's just something that works well for me. I can hear melodies in the head when the lyrics are written. I don't know, I can't explain why I can write songs so fast. But I think one of the things, I remember one of my sons had said, where do you find the time for this, Dad? And you're still working? Because I think if you tell someone you've written so many songs, then they think you're spending hours upon hours upon hours, you know, and which is not the case. It's just because it's a very quick process for me. I don't know how you find that in general with your experience. Do you find that a mix of that? Some people, because I know some people can take years to write songs, but others can write fast.
There are some creative minds out there who do not only music but arts, for example, or things like this. They are in a constant state of creative processing stuff, I would say. And I think it's the same with you. So you found a way to actually vent that into several ideas in a very productive way. So I guess most of the other artists I talked to until now, they scribble something down, but this will never see the day of light because they put it away the other day and said, nah, next one. And that's why I was asking if the notebook you mentioned before, if that was in use or if that was gathering dust in the drawer, because most of other artists just put those ideas, those raw sketches away and never look back at them.
Well, see, the reason why I don't think that's a good idea is because I've always believed that from an idea can come a better idea. It just might have been at that point when I wrote that, I thought that's poor. So we'll leave it there to one side. If you eternally leave it, then you potentially have lost out writing another song, which might have been a decent song. So it's having that, and then you could embellish that. And sometimes something, and generally that's what happens. So yeah, works for me.
So with this year already seen one single, 2 EPs, and let me just check, 1 album from you. And we're in May. So what's next? What's the next plan for this year?
I think just now it's really just about continuing with the songwriting, publishing on YouTube, and on Facebook. And at some point, if I'm being honest, probably it would be next year before I start formulating ideas about another album. Because at that stage, I think I'll probably have, well, there will be more than enough songs just now, but to try and come up with some kind of theme to the album. So that I think some John Mellencamp's latest album was a themed album. The latest one I came out with, One-Eyed Jack. So something like that, songs with the similar themes, but not too similar that it becomes boring. And I'm also conscious as well that you would need to have light and balance in the album with up tempo and some of the moodier stuff that I tend to go for and settle for. So long-winded answer, but in terms of an album, I would guess I'm probably looking at next year before I would be looking at doing that.
But knowing a bit about you now, I guess there will be this constant stream of new videos or Facebook uploads from new songs or sketches, because that's what makes it so interesting. I always thought while going through your work that these are almost snapshots of how you feel or how you went through the other week or something like this, because there's a mood shift. You can feel, okay, nah, that's a bit melancholic. Maybe not the best week. And then it went to more positive. So that's what makes it really intriguing.
Yeah,
With
maybe
your
I've got
work.
split personalities that I wasn't aware of. So. And they're feeding off each other.
So Paul, thank you very much for meeting me tonight. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. Guys out there,
Thank you.
if you want to
Totally
know more
enjoyed it.
about Paul O'Brien and his work on the harmonica man with his guitar, please make sure to check out the links in the description of this video. That's it for tonight. All I have to say is be safe. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you.